Hey everybody, this is Kevin and welcome back to another Estes rocket build video. As you can see here, we've got a throwback to yesteryear. This is a rocket that I've had for well over a year now, and I want to first thank you and also apologize to my friend Michael, who sent me this rocket again over a year ago to build, but we got tied up in our move and packing and unpacking, and then I got busy building other rockets and other projects, so my life has finally come to a pause where I can take a breath and get caught up on some things. So we're going to attack the Star Wars Death Star. This is again something I've been anxious to get into for well over a year now, but we're finally going to do it. This is a unique rocket. It's apparently supposed to explode, which is, I guess, a good thing. And I've had some success at exploding rockets. So let's go ahead and get this open and see what all we get with the kit. So, but once again, I want to say, Michael, thank you very much, and thanks for your patience. I know you've been anxious for me to get into it, and I have I have been too. So here we go. Kind of get all the parts out. I want to be careful because a lot of this is foam. I don't want to dent and ding things up too badly. But I didn't know we got some more. There we go. I think that's it. I don't know. There's something at the bottom. What is it? Oh, just, okay, a little catalog, and oh, that's cool. The mini catalog activity booklet. Oh, that's pretty cool. It's even got a crossword puzzle. Huh. A word search. Oh man, these coupons expire 12/31 of 98, so don't think we're going to be able to redeem any of these items. So, all right, so let's see what we get here. We got the 4 pieces that make up the Death Star itself. And we got this bag of parts. Let me get the inventory here. And we'll do a quick inventory on everything. Okay, looking at the inventory here, it's showing that 3 of these sections here are identical. So I'm assuming it's these 3 here. Okay, so we've got those 3. And then the 4th one is the one that's actually got the laser dish in the center of it. Okay, we should have 2 green adapter rings. Let me sort through all this. There they are. They're buried at the bottom. Okay, we got our 2 green adapter rings. Okay, we should have a light blue engine motor mount. A red tube coupler. We should have 4 plastic inserts. Let me clean some of this up here. Looks like the streamer's stuck. There we go. Okay, we got 4 plastic inserts. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Looks like they may have been tied to the tree at one point, but they've since broken off. We got those 4. We should have 2 launch rings, one with an extension and one without. Let's see. Okay, here's the extension without, I'm sorry, the launch lug ring without the extension. And here's the one with the extension. Okay, then we should have a body tube with slots. Here's the one with the slots. And here's the one without the slots. Okay, we should have an engine hook somewhere in here. Oh, another bag that I didn't cut. Okay, there's our engine hook. We should have 2 sets of shroud lines. There we go. Okay, we should have our die-cut balsa fins. The sheets look bent, but the parts inside actually look straight. But you know what, I'm going to probably douse these with some water and lay them under some weight to flatten them out and leave them to dry overnight. So I will do that this evening. So we should be set for maybe continuing on tomorrow. Okay. We should have 2 tape ring sets. We should have 1 parachute. It's a 12-inch parachute. We should have a shock cord mount and 4 individual streamers. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we've got 1 decal sheet. That's pretty impressive decal, actually. All right, so that wraps up the inventory. Everything is here. Let's clear the board and we will start working on our engine mount. Okay, the first step is to assemble the motor mount, and we want to take our light blue tube here and we want to make 2 marks on it. One at the 1-inch point and one at the 2.5-inch point. So let me go ahead and make our marks. There's the 1-inch, and here is the 2.5-inch. Okay. At the 2.5-inch mark right here, I want to take an X-Acto knife, and we're going to make a little bit of a, like that, about a 1/8 inch slit. And this should be for our engine hook. This should pop right in just like that. Okay. I am going to extend my line here on the 1-inch because the engine hook is actually blocking it. So there, we'll just extend that over a little bit. Okay, I want to take one of my green rings. I'm going to slide it over, and I'm going to get my wood glue. And I'm going to run a bead just above the mark. And I'm going to rotate the ring into the glue and up to our mark and stop right there. Make sure everything's straight. I'm going to kind of wipe out our fillet. All right, we're going to let that sit and dry. And we also want to get our other ring, and we're going to glue this up to that other mark, which is basically flush with the tube. Yeah, just like that. So I'm going to run a bead of glue around the base. Okay, just like that. Take our adapter, slide it in, and I'm actually just going to push it down onto the bench. Clean up our mess, and that is flush. Kind of wipe out that fillet. Okay, so we're going to let that sit and dry, and then we can move on to working on our body tube. Okay, now we're going to attach the 2 body tubes. We're going to utilize the 1-inch coupler, and first we need to measure 1/2 inch on the coupler, which gives us right to the middle point. Okay, so that's the point at which we're going to go in on each side. Just do a quick dry fit. There, make sure everything's nice and smooth. Okay, so we're going to take our wood glue, and I'm going to run a bead just on the inside of the tube. I'm going to kind of pull it out to the edge. That way I ensure I get full coverage. There. Okay, take my coupler, put it in, we're going to twist and push it up to that mark that we made. There. just like so. Okay, now we're going to take the other body tube with the one with the slots. Same thing, we're going to put the glue on the inside of the tube. Okay, now once I get this inserted in, I'm going to do a roll test. I'm going to roll these together on the bench to make sure that they are parallel with each other and even. Okay, so get that in. Twist, there, just like that. Now I'm going to roll them to make sure that they're straight. Okay, I'm going to eyeball it just to make sure it looks visually straight, which it does. See if you can see that on camera. Okay. So we're going to set that aside and let it dry for a bit. Okay, the body tube is dry, and in addition to gluing it together, which we did last segment, I went and filled in the gap between the two tubes, which there was ever so slightly a gap. I filled that in with some wood putty, let that dry, and I sanded it down smooth. So now we've got one pretty solid piece. Now they want us to draw a center line down the entire length of the tube, spaced directly between any two fins. They just say to eyeball it. I could do that, but you know me, I try to find ways of complicating things. No, I don't, I'm being facetious, but I'm gonna measure with a piece of piece of paper, the distance between two fins, the slots, and then I'm gonna see how many millimeters that is, and we come up with exactly, looks like 17. Let me look at it from this direction. Actually, it's more like 18. Okay, so at the 9 millimeter mark, which is half of 18, I'm going to draw a line. Go back to my tube. And I'm going to set this in position once again, and then make a mark at that 9 millimeter point. Okay, now we have a center line between those two tubes. I'm going to use my Estes tube marking guide. And let me find the best, I think this will be the best side to use. Get it in position. And draw a line down the length of the tube. Okay. Looks good. I don't know if you can see that or not. Now that line is going to be used for two things. One, it's going to be a center line for our launch lugs, which we'll get to later. But also, it's going to be a line that we're going to use to glue our motor mount in. And when we do, we're going to line the engine hook with that line that we just drew. So here I am just doing a dry fit. Okay. And now we're ready to glue this in. Let me get some wood glue. Now I'm going to do two things. The instructions call for running a bead of glue in here, right at the base of the tube, and then pushing both of these rings through. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to run a bead of glue at about this point, just ahead of the slots. Once I get it started, then I'm going to put a bead of glue on the inside here for the second ring to catch. So let me grab a paper towel just to catch any drops, any drops of glue that may fall off our Q-tip. Okay, good. We're going to start our motor mount there. And you know, I'm actually going to use a toothpick for this because that's a little bit too narrow of a spot for the Q-tip to pass through. You know what, actually, I might just be able to get that. Let me just use the bottle itself. I think that's going to be a much easier way to do it. There we go. And I'll tell you, once I get it in, I'm going to rotate it a little bit just to kind of spread that glue around a little bit. But here we go. And we're going to push it in flush, so both of these tubes, like the blue tube and the white tube, are flush at the bottom together. There, spread that glue a little bit. Push that in, and we're going to get them flush with one another, just like that. And we're going to stop and let it dry just as is. Okay, off camera I did take the balsa fins and I left them in the sheets for protection and to keep them level. You can see there's no more warp. This is after leaving it overnight under some weight after moistening it a little bit on both sides. But I want to show you, I did spray one light coat of white primer over both sheets. And then what I did it on this sheet, I haven't done it on this one yet, is I just took some 220 sandpaper and just lightly sand onto where the primer's at. And that should sand down any high spots, leaving the primer down in the grain. That's a low spot. And you get almost a glass smooth finish. And that's with 220. Okay, and we'll flip it over. This way, after we glue the fins on and start the painting process, we'll have less to worry about with the wood grain showing through the paint. We're doing a lot of the prelim work early, and it's nice that it's still in the template. That keeps it flat for us. There. Just kind of blow the dust off. And then we can come in with our knife and cut them out of the tabs. The only problem is when you paint it, sometimes you lose your reference lines, but they can be found by gently bending the wood a little bit. There it is. There we go. Let's see if they just pop out. There we go. There's one. This one, not quite. Do another pass on this. There we go. I'll do the same to the other side, but now the fins are cut out. They are smooth. Once I get them all cut out, though, we'll come back and we're going to sand the perimeters off. Interesting that the instructions do not call for rounding the leading edges. We're not going to have to worry about that. But we're making progress, and we'll be getting these cut out, and I'll come right back. Okay, we've got all 4 fins cut out. I lightly cleaned them off with a paper towel and some isopropyl alcohol just to kind of clean off some of that dust. But then now we want to take all 4, we want to stack them together, get them as even as we possibly can, at least get the tabs in line with one another at a minimum. Okay, and then we want to take some sandpaper and just rub them all together along the sandpaper to get all the sides equal. And this will take off the little nubs that we had to cut through. Okay. Okay, and we'll do just a little bit at the bottom. We got to be careful not to take off too much because we want that surface contact on the motor mount when we glue these in. There, just want to get those little nubs sanded off. There we go. All right, fins are done. Next step will be attaching these to the body tube. Okay, I was looking back through the instructions and I cannot believe that I missed this, but it actually does in fact call for sanding the leading edge and trailing edge of the fins. So I'm not sure how I missed that before, but I've gone ahead and done 3. We're going to do the 4th one here. I take my little leading edge sanding block, route the curvature over the edge there, got my 220 sandpaper, and we're just going to sand the contour into the leading edge. If you can see that or not, but it's evenly rounded. And now we'll do the same thing to the flat trailing edge. You can see it's flat there. And now it's round. So, okay, that takes care of those. Now they're about ready to glue into the body. Okay, the fins are now being glued in. I've already done 3 of them. I'm going to do the 4th one on camera here. But just to show you, I am using, for the first time ever, I'm actually using the quick and thick, not only for the fillets, which I'll do later, but also just to do the primary attachment of the fins into the rocket. The only place that the rocket actually, I'm sorry, the fin actually makes contact on the outside of the tube is right behind. So I'm going to sand just a little bit there. And everything else is on the interior. I'm actually going to do a combination. I'm going to do a bead of glue down the slot. As well as just a bit on the fins itself. And we're just going to line it up, kind of wedge it into place. Okay, now from the onset you can see it's a little crooked, so we're just going to gently tap it with our finger and position it straight. And there you go. Now we've got a perfect plus, perfect X, however you want to view it. But the fins are now all squared up and glued in. So we're going to let these sit for a while. Once they harden up and cure, then we can come in and do our fillets. Okay, the glue on the inside has hardened up, so the fins are now rather strong, but we're going to make them stronger. We're going to add some fillets. So I'm going to once again use the same glue, the Tight Bond Quick and Thick, which I'm really starting to fall in love with. And I am going to lay down a bead of glue in each crevice, and I'm going to pull it to the rear. That way any overflow doesn't end up on the tube. So I can just quickly clean my finger and move right on to the next one. So without procrastinating, we're just going to go ahead and start getting right into it. Just lay down our first bead. Take our finger, here I'll use this one, and just apply gentle pressure and draw it down. Look how smooth and quick that went. There's a little piece of balsa missing, so I don't think the fillet's going to be able to fill all of this up, but we can fix that later. Actually, it might have filled that already. Okay, we can move on to the next one. This glue is so wonderful for fins and filleting. And the nice thing too is that the nozzle that comes in the bottle is really convenient, easy to apply. And yes, you hear vehicles driving by. I've got my garage door open. And it just seems like it's quiet all day until I decide to hit record, and then everyone decides to crank up their loud engines and drive around town. Okay, 2 more to go. We're almost done. In fact, this side here is the side that our launch lugs will glue onto. That'll be the next step. In fact, we'll more than likely be able to do the launch lugs while these fillets are still setting up, as long as we just don't touch them. Clean off a little glue there. Nice. All right, very nice. Okay, let me clear the table a little bit, and we'll get the launch lugs ready to go, and we'll glue them on next. Okay, the fillets are still setting up. They haven't turned clear yet, which is the indication that they're dry. But that's okay. As long as we don't touch them, we'll be okay. But it's time to glue on our launch lugs. Now, you want to definitely find the reference line that we drew earlier. One thing we need to do is make a mark 4 3/8 of an inch up from the top of the tube. That'll indicate where we set our upper launch lug. So let me mark 4 3/8. Right there. Okay, so there's 2 launch lugs, and you'll notice one, the lug is the same length as the ring, but the other one, it extends out a little bit. That's going to be the upper ring facing forward. So this is going to be the one that's glued right there in that fashion. Okay, so let's get that out of the way first and get this one ready to go. Okay, now it's going to glue right up to the top of the fins, just like that. And they call for using plastic cement, and that's what we'll do. So I got my cement right here. And we'll just run a bead right around here. That way the ring will pass through it. This is why you always have paper towels, because this cement loves to flow beyond what you would want it to. Okay. Okay, we're going to run this through the glue. In fact, I'll do a little twisting motion to help spread it. And I want to bring it right into alignment on that center line that we drew down the tube, pushing it up to the fins. Okay, that looks darn near perfect to me. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit for a second. Get out my other ring. Same thing, going to glue this one on. Now it goes right, like I said, right up against that line that we had marked. So we'll take our cement once again. Run a ring of glue. Like that. And once again, pass it through, and I want to twist it to help spread it. Twist it all the way around back to that mark. Line it right up in position. Eyeball it, make sure it's straight, in line with the other one. Okay, that looks good. Now we're just going to let this whole thing sit and dry, and once they're cured, then we can move on. Okay, the body tube has been primed and painted, and while that's drying, this is a good opportunity for us to go ahead and work on the Death Star. First thing we need to do is glue these plastic inserts into each quarter piece, and this is what attaches the streamers to each of the 4 parts of the Death Star. The instructions call for using contact cement. Whenever I use dissimilar types of materials, I prefer using epoxy. So I've already mixed up a batch of 30-minute epoxy, which should be long enough to get all 4 of these done. I'm only going to show you the first one on camera to show you how I do it, and then the other 3 I'll do off camera. But 30 minutes should be plenty enough time to do all 4 of these. So, like I said, it's already pre-mixed. I'm just going to take my 30-minute epoxy, and I'm going to spread it onto the foam. Epoxy is good for foam because it doesn't burn it or dissolve it like strong solvents. Super glues, for example, could do that, unless it's a special foam safe variety, but most are not foam safe. And one other decision I've made on the Death Star is they call for painting it gray, which historically is the accurate thing to do. However, I don't want to risk possible solvents in the paint dissolving the foam, so I've elected to leave the Death Star in white. Additionally, over time after flying it, especially on the conditions I fly on, if it were painted gray, I would inevitably scratch the paint off anyway, and then it would look all splotchy and nasty, so I'm just going to leave it white. Okay, so the epoxy's on. Now we're just going to drop this piece into place, press it down firmly, and that's all there is to it. So again, I'm going to do these other 3 off camera, and then we'll come back and start attaching the streamers. Okay, now we're going to prepare the streamers to attach to the Death Star quarters. So I've got the 4 streamer pieces here, and what I want to do is I want to take one of these stickers that looks like a donut, and we just want to place it right at the end with maybe a 1/4 inch to the end. Stick that down. We'll go ahead and do that to all 4 streamers first. And our final one. Okay, now one thing I did off camera was, because it would be boring for you to watch, I took the shroud lines. It comes with 2 shroud lines, one to make the parachute with, and the other one to make the streamer tie downs with. And you were to cut that second one into 4 strips of 12 inches, so 4 foot long pieces, and then tie the ends together and make a loop. So I've done that 4 times. So I got four little loops here, and I'll just do the first one on camera to show you how we do this. You want to take a pencil or something sharp and poke it through the center of that ring that you just made, and then I'm going to take the end that's from the knot that I made, pass it through that hole, and then I'm going to loop it through itself, just like that, and cinch it down tight. Okay, that's basically how the streamer's connected, and then we're going to do the similar concept on the Death Star end when we get to that point. So let me do the other 3 off camera, and we'll come right back. Okay, here is the rocket. You can see it's been primed, sanded, and painted, gloss black. Came out really sharp. Now, one thing I want to point out to you is I'm not a big fan of sticker decals. I prefer water slides. They're a little more permanent. They don't lift as easily. They're a little maneuverable. After you lay it down, you can shift them around and slide them. So that being said, I took the decals that came in the kit, scanned them into my computer, and then printed up a copy onto white water slide decal paper. So I'll be applying a water slide and keeping the original intact. So that being said, I'm going to lay it down with the launch lugs facing downward. That way I'm looking directly at the front of the rocket. And we're gonna lay the decal right up against this ring up here, the upper ring, centered. And then the seam line where they join will end up on the back side, where you won't see it as easily. Okay, so let me go ahead and dip this in the water. Get that started. It's almost too big for my little basin. Okay, I've got paper towels ready to go because you're gonna need them to wipe it down and squeegee the water and air out of the back of the decal. So that's all set to go. This paper releases very quickly, so it shouldn't take long in the water. Okay, it's starting to lift in the middle, so we got it ready. Let me go ahead and take it out. Okay, I'm going to lay it on the tube, and I'm going to pull the backing out from underneath. And just sort of let it drape over the sides on its own. Looks good. Now we can start squeegeeing out the water and air. Cool. There we go. Hope you can see it on camera. It's kind of hard black on black with the little blue background, but you've got a Jedi, what is it called? The X-Wing fighting a TIE fighter. I think I remember those names correctly. So anyway, there you have it. So gonna let that dry up, and then we'll come back and get back to work on the Death Star part. Okay, while the decal finishes its drying, we're gonna go ahead and build up our shock cord mount. Now, remember, this only will work, this shock cord mount is only for the parachute because there's no nose cone that's going to be attached to the rocket body. So it comes with this nice little fabric elastic cord. I cut this out of the instructions. What you want to do is just run some wood glue over the 3 sections. And it's going to get a little messy, so you always have a paper towel handy. And we're just going to wipe the glue evenly over the paper. Take your shock cord. I like to mount mine at an angle. That way when I fold it over, it doesn't fold over onto itself quite as much. Okay, and we'll fold one, the little end, over 2. Okay, then we'll add a little bit of glue on the cord. I'm going to fold 2 over 3. Just like that. And I'm going to put this under some weights to help flatten it. And then once it's dry and set up, then we can glue it into the body tube. So we're just going to let that sit for a bit. Okay, as we near the finish line on the build of the Death Star, it's time to go ahead and glue in now our shock cord mount, which we've flattened and it's dried as flat as we could possibly get it. Now we want to glue it and insert it down the tube. Now, one thing to keep in mind is you want to glue it far enough down so the shoulder of the Death Star won't impact it. So it's got to go down at least 1.5 inches to 2 inches. So I'm going to push the shock cord mount down to roughly about this area, as far as my finger will allow. That way we won't have any interference with ejection. So okay, I'm just going to go ahead and spread some glue on the shock cord mount. Okay, I'm going to insert it in, again, as far as my finger will allow, and then press it. Okay, I can tell it's right about here. So I'm just going to put pressure on the outside of the tube and press it into the curvature. Just like that. Take a look down. Yep, you can see can't even see it because it's flat, so it's sticking out, protruding into the airway. Okay, so while that sets up, one other thing I want to do is I want to tie a loop in the end of this. This is what will the hook on the parachute will attach to. So there's our little loop. So we can exchange this for any parachute we want. So that's all good to go. Yeah, so let me let that set up, and then we'll do a final recap on the streamers and the Death Star and how it all goes together. Okay, as we wrap up the Death Star build, I just want to show you, I don't have a parachute on here right now, but if we did, we would properly roll it up and stuff it down the tube. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the shock cord just to get it out of the way. And I've already got 3 of the quarters ready to go, but I'm going to show you how I did it. So I'm going to take my 4th and final one. This one happens to be the one with the antenna. But I'm going to take my streamer that I've already previously attached the looped string to. I'm going to pass one end of the loop through this little eyelet right here. Pull it out the other side. I'm going to open up that loop. I'm going to pass the entire streamer through that loop and pull it taut on that eyelet, and that'll cinch it down nice and secure. Okay. Then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and fold the streamer up. In this case, I'm just going to fold it in half again, and again, and eventually you just get to the point where you start rolling it. Make sure it's loose. You don't want it tight or else it won't unfurl on you. Okay, once that's folded up like that, then go ahead and come up to your rocket, and you want to slip the curvature of that shoulder. Okay, sorry about that. My camera died right as I was starting to insert it, but that's okay because now we're going to do it a little differently. I got all 4 ready to go. And so like I was showing you, there's a little round shoulder there with little slots in it. Those are going to wrap over the body tube. So we'll take one, slip it in, take a second one right next to it, slip it in, take the third one, slip it in, and then our 4th and final one, slip it right in. There you go. Now, the one with the antenna dish on it is also the one with the extra hole right there on top to allow for the launch rod to pass through. So that's it. Again, I'm going to leave the white unpainted. That way it won't get the gray scratched up when I fly it and land it anyway. So that completes the build. I don't know if I can fit it all in here or not, but that completes the build on the Estes Star Wars Death Star. I want to thank Michael, my good buddy, again once again for sending this to me. Can't wait to get it up in the air. In fact, I'm going to fly it very soon, hopefully. If it's not too hot or windy, we'll get this airborne. And one thing goes up and 5 things will come down. So that's it for this build. Thanks everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. God bless, and we will see you in the next video.